edition of the Charlie Kirk Bible read and Bob Rant. Do what I normally do, back upstairs again. I keep forgetting to bring that flag up. I'll get that done. There is the skyline of Port Phillip Bay. Been a funny old day in Melbourne. Beautiful. It's crystal clear today. You can see, I don't know whether you can see it through the laptop, but you can see the peninsula all the way down the Mornington Peninsula across the bay. And that's what's coming across. Bit of cloud cover. It's been an interesting day. We've had sun in the morning. We had rain and cloud in the morning. It was a bit drizzly and wet, and then sun came out and been a pretty good afternoon. So not complaining. We'll be taking me and my sidekick out after this. Here he comes. Those who watch, you know what's going on. He always comes over to say g'day, don't you, mate? We'll be going out to see the Christmas lights later on again. We always, this time of year, me and the dog, we go around the different streets and whatever, have a look, see who's got the best setup. There's been a few good ones, but there's not been as many as past years, which is a bit sad. So, anyway, that's where we're up to. So, got my glasses, haven't forgot them, probably more important. Flag, can't read a thing. Oh my God, the dog's not going. He's still there. Saying g'day. Well, yeah, he's happy. Yeah, there you go. Yes. He's much happier today than what he was the last few days after he got his shower and his bath. Hey? You going to sit down? Yeah, no. Oh, look at this. He's just sitting down there. Put your ears up. Sorry, guys. He's not usually like this. Hey, yeah. He usually comes and says g'day, and then he gets back up on the couch. Hey, he's a gorgeous boy. Hey, gorgeous boy. Anyway, I gotta do my live stream. Is that all right? Is that okay? You sure? Look at the eyeballs on it. All right, I better get into it. Go on your couch. And if you want to see, as soon as I give that, they're so smart. They nearly. Hey, he's back again. On your couch. On your couch. Go on. Good boy. He does that with a grunt. They're a very smart dog. They can, seriously, once you've had them for a while, they nearly, I literally say, and they're not just German Shepherds, but German Shepherds especially, but all dogs. My last Labrador was the same. They can nearly talk to you. They're crazy, you know. They definitely understand the lingo. Anyway, that was an interesting start to today. He's back again, I think. God, he's engaged today. 22nd of December, 3 days to go. Not that I see Santa much anymore these days, but the kids would be getting excited. December 22nd, Mary's Song of Praise, Luke 1, 46 through 55. Mary later visits her cousin Elizabeth. The meeting was the occasion of Mary's great song of praise to God for a unique pregnancy. Mary said, "My heart praises the Lord. My soul is glad because of God my Saviour, for he has remembered me, his lowly servant. From now on, all people will call me happy because of the great things the mighty God has done for me. His name is holy from one generation to another. He shows mercy to those who honour him. He has stretched out his mighty arm and scattered the proud with all their plans. He has brought down mighty kings from their homes and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away with empty hands. He has kept the promise he made to our ancestors and has come to the help of his servant Israel. He has remembered to show mercy to Abraham and to all his descendants forever." Interesting. Don't know whether it's been quite sure about showing mercy to his all of Abraham's descendants. I think there'll be a few that would disagree with that one a little bit. But anyway, this time of year we shouldn't be quibbling about the birth of Jesus or his mother Mary, I don't think. Time for the rant. I've been a busy day a little bit today, so I really haven't had much time to look at the news until I just got on a little bit before. We'll go through my feed in a minute. But I did see the Elbow press conference today and how they're going to weaponise hate speech laws again. You know, that's going to solve the problem. we're going to go around to those nasty little terrorists and say, you can't speak any nasty words. You speak any nasty words, and we might have to take some action. The problem with that is we all get caught up into it because those totalitarian bureaucrats we've got, and there's plenty of them, whether in the police force or the justice system or just in the bureaucracy, they'll be coming for everyone, not just those nasty little terrorists who are too smart to get caught like stuff like that. So it's only the law-abiding ones like you and I that they will probably come for. I don't know how much of what I say would be considered hate speech, but I've been pretty strong this past week and a bit about radical Islam. Is that hate speech? I mean, who decides what is hate speech and what isn't hate speech? A lot of people are getting wound up about the sorry, I just got to clean my finger there a bit. Wound up about the increasing gun laws as opposed to the hate speech. I'd say the speech laws are actually worse than the gun laws that they're trying to bring in. Or whatever it is, it's all a smokescreen. The whole thing is a smokescreen for Albo and his government's accountability in this massacre. And they're going to say and do anything to hide that accountability away from it. So it'll be a talking point for quite some time, I've got no doubt. What I'm waiting to hear from, and I'll put a post up on it today. Credit to Susan Ley, not a big fan. I think the Liberals would do far better with someone like Andrew Hastie in charge. But she's hitting all the right buttons at the moment through this. So you got to give credit where credit's due. We will see what response they have to these hate speech laws and to the gun laws. There were some positive things. I think it was the deputy leader of the Nationals coming out and saying, well, it's not the gun that's the problem, which we all know. I mean, this is the arrogance of the ALP and their left. They just think they can trot these lines out and we're all going to accept them. Thing is, we're not. We're not going to accept them. Well, at least the sensible ones aren't going to accept them. I mean, I do. I don't know how many of you remember. Well, it's not that long ago. Remember before the bushfires and all that sort of thing about how the ALP piled onto Scott Morrison as Prime Minister. That was pretty abhorrent, but now they're all whinging that everyone's criticising Albo. Well, Scott Morrison didn't have blood on his hands over those bushfires. The state governments at that time did, because they were allowing the Greens to allow to build up on the forest floors everywhere. And God knows, if you remember, everyone was trying to blame it all on climate change. But those bushfires, from what a lot of people said, were deliberately started. And I've got no doubt that will happen in the future. Now, whether they were deliberately started, whether it was just a natural event, whatever it was, but that's not Scott Morrison. He didn't for 2 years ignore clear threats against the Jewish community and the hatred and anti-Semitism that went against it, only to start backtracking now that, innocents have been murdered. So it is, the whole thing is just surreal. And the left just, I don't know, I saw a poll today where the ALP would still win. So I think that's a concern for the Liberals and the One Nation. So, the centre-right still got a lot of work to do. Albo's had a slide in the polls, but, they can recover that pretty easy in the ALP by just simply getting rid of Albo. If they get rid of Albo when Lodge's the next most competent person in there, they'll still be miles ahead of the ALP. What's the old saying? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. I'm not too sure I would be next in line, but I couldn't imagine a Tanya Plibersek, Penny Wong, or a Jim Chalmers being any better than Albo, or God forbid, Chris Bowen. I mean, imagine if he got the PM seat. So sometimes you got to be careful of what you wish for. But Albo's not, I don't think, going to get sacked anytime soon, despite the petition. The government's not going to get sacked at all because we've got governor generals that are just too weak. We pay them, I read today, $700,000 a year. Well, they're not going to do it. And everyone's screaming for him to be sacked and all that. Well, call him out for being an idiot. Call him out for having blood on his hands. Call him out for all this sort of thing. But then start lobbying for the election in 2 years. That election will come around pretty quickly. So this March, I think it is, we're 1 year in. So we're only 2 years away. So a lot can happen in 2 years. Got to be really careful. But the first thing we got to do is kick out this Allen government in Victoria and then try and turn the electoral fortunes around for the centre-right in Victoria. Now, if you don't like her a thing, what's her name? Jess Wilson? Is it Jess Wilson? I don't know. I think it's Jess Wilson, the new young Liberal leader. I didn't like the way she came in, but she's doing a pretty decent job. And you don't have to like it. And this goes for all the politicians. They're not a footy team. I'm not cheering on Brad Batten or even Andrew Hastings because they're my footy team and I'm going to cheer them on no matter what. I'm cheering them on because I think they're the best person for the job and they can actually have the biggest impact on the Marxist ALP governments that we have all around this country. So, I don't care whether, I've said this multiple times, I couldn't give a rat's ass whether it's One Nation, the Libertarians, the Liberals, Nationals, coalition of any of them. They got to get a unified voice if they can, and they can remain separate but have a unified voice. The Liberals and National have done that for years. But I reckon the best thing they could do is actually have a round table. They tried this last year, but the round table's got to come, I believe, and I'll get shouted down for this, I think the round table's got to come from the largest centre-right Conservative party in the country. And whether you love them or hate them, that's the Liberals at the moment. If you're a Liberal leader, my advice would be quite simple. Go around and talk to Pauline Hanson. Get her on side. Give her an input into your policy. Take on board some of her policy. Make her an ally. Do the same thing with the Libertarians. The Libertarians and Liberals policy platform, the one they promote and say they're all about, actually aren't that far apart. Now, some of the politicians in the Liberal Party are miles apart, but the policy platforms, so the individual freedoms and speech and all that sort of thing, they're actually on the Liberal Party website. So it should be an easy sell to the Libertarians. Will they well trust them? Probably not. But it's up to the Libertarians also to get their shit together. So, we have 1 minute, we have John Ruddock marching across the Sydney Harbour Bridge with all the Palestinian supporters, the Hamas supporters, the terrorist supporters, and saying, oh, what a great thing it is. And then the next, week he's dog whistling to the NSN. And then you have David Limbrick, who I respected him. I said that plenty of times on the steps of Parliament yesterday in the pouring rain, saying things I can really support that is anti the pro-Palestinians and the NSN. So their messaging as a party is really confusing. And you can't be pro-liberty and pro-values when you've got party marching with people that are totally opposed to that, or dog whistling to people that are totally opposed to it. John Ruddock gave a speech, I think it was in Hyde Park in Sydney, where he had about 30, 40 NSN members in front of him cheering him on, and he was dog whistling to him. I've never seen anything like it in Australian politics. One, it was pathetic by John Ruddock. It was cowardly by John Ruddock. He should have called him out there right there and then. He would have probably won my respect back, but he lost it entirely on that day. But he's dog whistling to people that don't believe in the individual's liberties, and freedom of speech and all that. If you don't believe that, go look at a recent interview with Thomas Sewell, where Thomas Sewell, he goes, well, when we get into power, watch out, because there's basically there's going to be a reckoning. So he compared I can't remember the saying that they had with Charles Manson and his cult. I'm going to remember it, but they used it about going around and killing people and all this sort of shit, and how he's society upside down. So Thomas Sewell referenced that in thing. It was, if you listen to it, it's actually quite frightening what he was saying. So John Ruddock's aligning himself with that. And don't tell me John Ruddock has, because he's gone with the March for Australia, which has clear links to the NSN through Beck Freedom, and he's actually mentioned Beck Freedom a couple of times in the New South Wales Parliament. So here you've got two separate men in David Limbrick in Victoria Libertarians and John Ruddock in the New South Wales Libertarians, at total opposite ends of the integrity scale. Forget the political scale, the integrity one. So, we got some confusing times and things we've got to set up. Jared Rennick, who I've got a lot of time for. I think his policy is great. I don't think his politics is smart. And this is coming from someone who's guilty of the same things as Jared. What was this? I watched a film last night. It's about a guy that Tucker Carlson. I'm trying to remember the name. Trying to remember it. I can't. It was a guy. Was a Lutheran priest in Germany, and Tucker Carlson bagged him recently because he tried to assassinate Hitler, even though he's a Lutheran priest. Tucker Carlson just this last week showed his true colours. Said if his brother was a drug-fueled mass murderer, go look at it. You only got to watch his speech. That he wouldn't turn him in. He wouldn't disown him. So, so Tucker Carlson, this is where the centre-right is just so confused. On one hand, Tucker Carlson talks about killing innocents is unacceptable entirely, period. That's the favourite word he used. Killing of innocents, period, is unacceptable, and we've got to call it out. But then if his brother was guilty of killing innocents, that period gets removed. Oh, no, I won't disown him. So you can't have one and then have the other. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So anyway, this Lutheran priest, who, he saw the evils that Hitler was committing, and he thought, no, well, the church had sold out. If you watch the film, it's a really good film. The church had sold out to the Nazis. And so basically he said, well, I can't do anything from the church. I've got to do something myself. I've got to live with my own conscience. And his own conscience was telling him to assassinate Hitler. And you can have a debate all day whether that theology is right or wrong. I would be saying that if you were given a chance to stop a person from killing hundreds of thousands, would you take it? Would Christ want you to take it? My gut feel is probably yes, absolutely. To save innocence, as Tucker's saying, yes, you would. And that's something you sort of have to justify with your soul, and if you pass on with Christ, all that sort of thing. Only Christ knows what's going on in your own heart, your own soul. And he's the only person you've got to worry about justifying yourself to. So anyway, sorry for the whole thing, but the whole centre right has got to come in and find a common theme of where to go to. And I actually do think, again, I'll get pushed back on this, that I think the Liberals have got to lead that, and the Liberals would gain a lot of, I don't think they will, by the way, but I think they should. And if they did, they'd get a lot of kudos, I think, for doing it. It wouldn't be that hard. Have a round table, call them all in, say, listen, this is what we want to do. We want to defeat ALP. We want to get some, decent government back in. Here are our thoughts. What are yours? You'll get a lot of debate, but get everyone in for, 4 to 5 days and bang heads. TP USA has been pretty average to watch this year, but at least they all got in and banged heads. They did it very publicly at their AmFest thing. So it was quite interesting to watch as an Aussie watching the Yanks. And as a Christian, I just wish they would leave the Bible. And I don't know. I'm a bit torn on this one. See, I saw Jack, I'll mispronounce his name, Jack Posobiec, the Polish guy that immigrated to America. He's now very much in the TP USA. He got his kids to come out on stage with his wife and recite, I think it was the Hail Mary, another prayer, and one to St. Michael. And he got them to do that in Latin. Now, in front of, supposedly 30,000, they say. I don't know whether it's that big, but it's a lot of people. And it's a big worldwide audience. Now, I just wish, you'd leave the kids out of it and maybe just leave Christianity out of it. You can say, when I say leave Christianity out of it, you can actually say you believe in Christian values and all that sort of stuff without getting your kids out there to say a prayer. Prayer is a very personal thing, I think, between you and God. And that's where it should be left. There's a lot of people in that audience that aren't Christian. They could be Muslim, they could be Jewish, they could be atheist, they could be Hindu. They might not just share that sort of thing. They would share the values of Christianity. So that's a different argument. But to shove it down their throat, and they had one evangelistic guy getting up who was probably 16. It was just ridiculous. And he's lecturing all these other people. My age, I don't want to be lectured by a 16-year-old about my faith. I'm sorry. So I just find the American rah-rah bullshit a bit hard to take. And I'm glad we don't have it in Australia. I hope we don't ever have it. So there's certain things about the American way of life I don't like. And I'm not keen. I know there's a lot of people pushing for against the gun laws. I waver on that a little bit. So I'm actually happy we're not like America, where we've got mass amount of guns and people carrying arms everywhere and all that sort of thing. And the country that I grew up in right up until I was the turn of the century, and even a little bit past, you didn't need it. You know, you barely ever heard of a knife crime or a gun crime or anything like that. Down where I grew up in Bensdale in the country, you could walk out of your home with the door unlocked and have no problem of no one breaking into it. Same thing with your car. Yeah. You know, but nowadays you can't just do it. You just can't do it anymore. So, the world's changed a bit. So, do we have the right to protect ourselves? I would like to see, and bringing David Limbrick back in, I would like to see the laws that he was proposing about being, your castle laws about being able to protect yourself. I'd like to see them brought in. And I've got no issue that if every household could, for example, have a handgun in a safe, I'd nearly concede on that. But do we want the really liberal gun laws they've got in America, where everyone can get, own 20 guns and whatever? No, I don't think we want that. And you don't need to change the gun laws. What you've got to question in Australia is, how did that guy get the 6 guns? You don't need to change the gun laws. You just need to figure out, how did he actually get the 6 guns? What do you have to fix in the system to make sure that never happens again? I don't think that needs to change the gun laws. I don't think that needs to make farmers' lives any harder, for example, and responsible firearms owners. We don't need any of that bullshit. So anyway, so that's my ramble. The centre right have got to get a little bit more organised, because if we don't, not a little bit, a lot more, if we don't, we're going to have these Marxist totalitarians in charge for so long. Soon we won't be able to take a piss without someone from the government walking into the toilet with us. I mean, it's crazy, how much they're reaching into our lives. And the Liberals, Libertarians, One Nation, they've all got to start pushing back on it. It's got to be a united voice. Enough's enough. We've got enough laws trying to control our lives. There's got to be a line that doesn't get crossed. I reckon we're at that line. And they've all got to start, which I think they're doing. But we will see, to calling them out. My final point to round this off is that I've been a big defender of the Jewish community in all sorts of areas, both on this platform and also outside it. I think what they've had to tolerate for 2 years is an absolute disgrace. And if any other demographic had to go through that, if the Jewish community was marching down the streets every week for 2 years against the Palestinian community, or the Arab community, or the Middle Eastern, I'll be saying, well, that's ridiculous. You don't need to be doing that. So, we've all just got to try and get on more as Aussies first. Now, I'm not Australia only, but we've got to be Aussies first. Before Islam, before we're Jewish, before we're American, before we're British, we're Aussies first. And there is an Aussie culture. And again, the centre-right party should define that culture. I thought what Susan Ley did today to outline the terms of a potential royal commission into this massacre was really good. She got on the front foot and she wedged Elbow into it. Now Elbow's under a lot of pressure. Why aren't you doing it? You've got a bipartisan support here if you go down that line. And we all know why he's not doing it, because he's trying to hide shit. It's as simple as that. It's like COVID. Other parties, if they do get up a royal commission for this massacre, why are we not pushing? Why are the Liberals not pushing for a royal commission into the COVID years? Do they have something to hide under Morrison? So if there was ever going to be a royal commission into anything, it was how the bureaucrats and government acted under COVID-19. We know why they're not doing it. They're not doing it because they've got something to hide. Anytime you don't have an open, transparent process like a royal commission, they're hiding things. So you can't allow them to hide these things. So finally, going back to my Jewish friends, I've been listening a lot to them carefully online. I'm a bit worried because they're in a state of fear. I totally get it. I totally understand why they're in it, but they can't let that fear turn into totalitarianism. They can't allow that fear to allow these ALP governments to take away our rights and liberties. There's a simple thing here. How do we make Jewish people feel safe in our country again? How do we make any non-Jewish person feel safe in our country? What's the common denominator to make them feeling unsafe? It's radical Islam. Identify not the anti-Semite. So if you watch all the politicians, they're very careful not to say radical Islam. They say anti-Semitism. They say hatred. They don't hesitate to bring up the Nazis or the NSN. They give all the radical Islams, they use their name of their terrorist framework. They don't actually call it radical Islam. It's the entirety of radical Islam. They should be calling out Hamas and this Hizbut Tahrir or whatever their name is. I've probably mispronounced that Burke raised today. But they can't even raise that without looping in the Nazis. Look, deal with the Nazis after this. But the Nazis haven't shot anyone yet. Have they protested? Yes. Have they done anything illegal? No. Can't do anything. You might not like what they say, but you can't do anything against them until they do something illegal. Now Burke's talking about going to the next degree to try and outlaw. It's like Tom Cruise in the Minority Report. It's nearly thought police. Well, you're going very close to inciting violence, even though you haven't incited violence, so we're going to make that illegal. Well, that doesn't just drag the Nazis in, it drags all of us in. It'll drag you, it'll drag me. We'll be like in England where I'll get someone coming and knocking at the door. Oh, we saw your post the other day, Mr. Man. What was that all about? I could say pig's ass, I don't care. I made a post, read it. If you can't interpret it, that's your problem. If I respond like that, am I going to jail? Well, don't think that's so far to reach. There's people sitting in prisons in England now because they made social media posts that the institutions didn't like, the judges sent them to jail for. So the world's turned upside down, and we've got to be careful we don't turn upside down. So all my Israeli friends out there and Jewish friends, just be careful what you wish for. Be very, very careful because you'll make the situation worse, not better. So we've got to get our immigration policy right. We've got to go into these radical mosques. I would even go as far as to say we've got to actually close all mosques down for a period until we know without a doubt that when they reopen, they're not going to be spreading this hate. And there's plenty of examples of imams out there spreading hate. So, and all of them, a lot of them, no, I shouldn't say all of them, but a lot of them sit in Tony Burke's electorate, apparently. So if that's the case, own up to it. If the ALP is really serious about national interest, give away these electorates where they're relying on the Muslim vote, where they can't come out and say radical Islam. It's just crazy. It's nuts. I was going to get on to X, but I've been going now for nearly 30 minutes. And my daily live stream, I don't want going for much longer than 30 minutes. So sometimes it takes me 15. Lately, it's been 30 minutes. So I think I'll call it a day there. And as usual, as we're getting closer to Christmas, me and my boy, there he is. We just want to send out we'll do this for the next couple of nights, our best wishes for the festive season. If you're not a Christian, if you're not a Catholic, if you're Jewish or whatever, that is sent with the best intentions of, and we shouldn't really even have to explain this. That is sent with our best intentions, just to wish you a happy holiday period. But for all my fellow Christians, Merry Christmas. We can say those two words without fear or favour, no matter who might take offence to it. If you're taking offence to the words Merry Christmas, you're a bitter old bastard. Get over yourself. So Merry Christmas to everyone. Be saying that for the next couple of nights. Hug your kids, hug your grandkids, hug your pets, look after them all. God bless you. God bless this country. Let's make it great again. And I've got to get that bloody flag back up here. Yep. So every time I look around, come here. Come on. Here he comes. He knows I'm getting close to the end because I'm looking around. And as soon as I'm getting close to the end, we usually go out if the weather's good. WALK. I said the word the other day. It set him off. I've got to be careful. So anyway, God bless.